Six, 604. Am I on? 604. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. Getting you ready for a busy Tuesday show. We got a lot of ground to cover, y'all, on all fronts. We're talking about everything from last year's presidential race to a potential disturbance in the Gulf coming up in a couple days, to LSU at SEC Media Days, to what's the face of Baton Rouge going to look like in a couple of years. We've got it all for you. Oh, by the way, we are starting you off at 73 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. There I am. All right, sorry. Yeah, no, it's on the headphone end. It's on the headphone
okay.
end, so. And now I'm like blasting my ears out. Oh. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Actually, before we do top stories and trending, you heard that update right there in traffic. This is going to get worse before it gets better on I-110. And by the way, shout out to Keith for letting me know about this. I-110 southbound, the exit to 190, that would be the exit to get on the old bridge, is shut down right now. Our traffic guy said there was an accident near, 110 near Harding. So I'm guessing that's the same accident. Keith, with a little bit more on-the-scene information, tells us the exit to 190, the old bridge, is shut down. So plan accordingly if that's what is included in your daily routine. Top stories and trending. Let's go.
Number 5.
A corrections officer accused of smuggling multiple drugs into the Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola was arrested Friday. The West Feliciana Parish Sheriff's Office said 35-year-old Lakeisha Brown brought 1.5 pounds of marijuana, 2.2 ounces of fentanyl, and 14 grams of meth onto prison grounds.
Number 4.
L.A. Wallet will now be accepted as a substitute for physical identification nationwide. Governor Jeff Landry announced yesterday, along with the Office of Motor Vehicles Director Brian Adams, that the Transportation and Security Administration has certified that LA Wallet complies with all federal requirements.
Number 3.
Mayor President Sid Edwards announced yesterday he was selected for the 9th class of the Bloomberg Harvard Leadership Initiative. He's joining 47 mayors total from 17 different countries to participate in the professional management training program. To kick off their participation, Mayor Edwards joined Harvard faculty and renowned management leaders in New York City for a 4-day immersive classroom experience. In fact, I believe he left out on for this one on Saturday after throwing out the first pitch of the Rouge game Friday night. 2 senior leaders from each of the 47 cities, including Baton Rouge, will begin their participation in the program formally in August.
Number 2.
At least one person was hurt in a shooting along Plank Road on Monday afternoon. This happened near Uncle Mo's Food Mart in Delhi around 3:15 p.m. Sources told our news partners at WBRZ one person was taken to a hospital with a gunshot wound from a shooting that happened in the area around 2:55 p.m. The extent of their injuries was unclear.
Number 1.
We are now up to a 40% chance of a name storm, and if we do have a name storm, it will be Dexter. There is a disturbance in the Atlantic right now. It is off the peninsula of Florida, and it is making its way eastward into the northeastern Gulf. Now, as of right now, there's a ton of wind shear knocking things down, removing the possibility, well, I shouldn't say the possibility, removing the probability or lowering the probability of formation into a named storm. However, the shower and thunderstorm activity, while it remains disorganized, the system's forecast to move westward across the Florida Peninsula today and tonight, reach the northeastern Gulf by the middle part of this week. Environmental conditions appear generally favorable for additional development, and a tropical depression could form by the middle to latter part of this week as the system moves across the northeast and north central Gulf of Mexico. Like I said, if it becomes a named storm, it will be named Dexter. I've already talked with WBRZ's chief meteorologist, Dr. Josh Eachus, about the storm. What he said for us, what we're expecting here is a rain event a lot more than a tropical event. As far as like, we're not really looking at a hurricane here. Now, if you are down closer to the coast, might be some elevated seas as a result of it, but that's what we're looking at as more of a rainmaker. What's trending, John?
Well, conservative activist Laura Loomer is the latest to call out Governor Jeff Landry and AG Liz Murrill for getting in the way of President Trump's America First energy agenda. Loomer tweeted about the governor's support of the coastal lawsuit, saying it was hypocritical.
It was a heck of a tweet too. I mean, it was a really long tweet with like a link to another article and whatnot.
Yep.
But it's about the coastal lawsuits and their backing of the lawsuits or not. If I'm being completely honest, I haven't dug in on the topic. I don't. There's just so much to come out of the last legislative session that we're still unpacking. Coastal lawsuits that's one of them. We will get to it eventually, but
Sure.
Intricate to say the least. So I don't want to sound off on something I don't know a whole lot about.
Okay, yeah, no problem. And speaking of President Trump, his support of AG Pam Bondi's stance on the Epstein files is causing more and more blowback.
Up to and including Don Jr. saying release the dadgum files, all of them. Yeah, I saw that press conference. Was it over the weekend or was it Friday heading into the weekend where someone asked Donald Trump about the Epstein files? He's like, Epstein, still talking about him?
Yeah,
He's been gone for years. We still talking about him?
I know.
It's bad look. It's bad look.
It really is.
Yep.
Really is. You know, it's not a bad look. Barbecue brisket.
Okay.
That's exactly what Burger King is launching today. The barbecue brisket Whopper.
What?
Yeah.
No, come on. I swear.
Might be worth a shot, right?
Well, yeah, of course it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
It sounds too good.
Sounds too good. Is that the issue?
The barbecue brisket Whopper is arriving nationwide. If you're a Whopper loyalist or just love barbecue, this might be your must-try sandwich of the season. That's quite the sales job there. But, okay. There's no way it actually tastes like brisket. Like, there's...
Like faux brisket.
Yeah. Frisket.
Brisket. Oh, there we go.
I don't know. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
give it a shot.
think I
There's
will.
no way I don't. It's 6:11 at Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. We got a lot of ground to cover this morning, y'all. We'll talk sports in our next segment. The head of the Rural Hospitals Association was the speaker at the press club yesterday. We'll have some audio from that later on. Jeff Crouere, host of Ringside Politics, slated to join us. Matt Moscona going to check in from SEC Media Days. Jerry Theodorou from the R Street Institute in the 7 o'clock hour. Chris Meyer from the Baton Rouge Area Foundation in the 7 o'clock hour. We got State Rep Emily Chenevert in the 8 o'clock hour. Author Tyler Pager in the 8 o'clock hour. And Congressman Troy Carter in the 8 o'clock hour. It is a busy, busy show. Let's stay on track. Let's go ahead and break, come back. Brian Kelly, first at the podium yesterday, as far as coaches were concerned. First at the podium yesterday for SEC Media Days. We'll talk about it next. All right. Am I still in one? I'm not? What's coming through the headphones then? Are my headphones on? Okay, I'm hearing me and the commercials. I should be hearing me? Okay. What were the headphones on? What were the headphones on? What was being fed into the headphones? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. You've been out of one since we went to break.
No, I was talking over the commercials into the headphones. What's being fed into the head?
Oh, let's see. Everything else seems to be normal.
Exterior. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Nope. If it was exterior,
Oh, wait.
then I was going out over the air.
No.
No, if it was exterior, then my mic was on and I was going out over the air right there.
Exterior? It's always an exterior, too. This one? Just to be sure, because I don't want to...
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, you're always in that one.
Okay, I was still hearing me. Even going into break, I was hearing me.
I wonder if it's because this was... It might have been because...
Okay.
Yeah, this was in program 2. So that's probably what it was. Oh, okay. Yep, that's what it was.
6:15 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. LSU head coach Brian Kelly, the first head coach to hit the podium for SEC Media Days. We'll get to that in just a quick second. Do need to remind you about the folks over at Landmark Bank. LandmarkBankLA.com is the website. LandmarkBankLA.com is where you will find them online. Where will you find them in real life? In communities around Baton Rouge, because they have been since 1897 a community bank. You'll find them in Zachary. You'll find them in Denham. You'll find them in Clinton. You'll find them in Brewley. If you want the full list, go to landmarkbankla.com. Hit up that About tab. They've got their locations there. Also, while you're sticking with a community bank, what you're going to get out of them is a banker. But where we're at in 2025 right now, what you're not going to lose out on is the tech, is the ability to do whatever it is you need to do. Whether you're talking about your own banking or business banking, they've got you covered. Learn more at landmarkbankla.com. SEC Media Days underway. Yesterday we talked with the king of college football, Chuck Oliver. Coming up at 6:50 this morning, we are going to talk with Matt Moscona, host of After Further Review. Right now, though, just a little snippet of what Brian Kelly had to say yesterday. One of the bigger things that he's been saying regularly, every chance he's had with a microphone in front of him, Coach Kelly has said, this is the best team he's got thus far. Well, he goes into a little more detail yesterday.
If you look at the roster in terms of how we addressed it, right? We had some young players at positions that we wanted to support. I'll give you an example. You know, Weston Davis right now is vying for that starting right tackle position, but we brought in a veteran guy like a Josh Thompson who could play right tackle or right guard. And I think when we addressed our needs at wide receiver, Barian Brown's a great wide receiver, but you had Aaron Anderson, you have Chris Hilton, you know, you have some really good players, but they balance you out. And I think the roster is the most balanced. It's the deepest roster we have because it incorporates some of the young guys that we took some lumps with along the way. So it's a nice balance of veteran players, young guys that have grown in the program, and some transfers that have played a lot of football.
Which is awesome. There's still some glaring spots glaring questions in spots, to be sure. We'll talk about that with Matt Moscona coming up at 6:50. Also get just a bit, a little 10,000-foot view of how things are going in Atlanta as day 2 of SEC Media Days is today. One more from Brian Kelly before we move on. LSU's got a nasty little streak going on of losing the season opener. It appears that this year there's being more of an emphasis put on winning game 1. Coach Kelly talks about preparing for Clemson.
We've made it a specific goal, and a specific goal meaning it's tangible for our guys. If you go through our weight room, we've got a Clemson paw print on the bags that we hit every day. It's on every monitor in the building to go 1-0. And I think it was important to have a tangible, specific goal for us to start the season. And I think it's important. Our kids want that. They can taste it. I use the analogy that when I work out, I like to have a clock in front of me so I know what the time is and when it's time to finish or to finish strong. And that's what this is. This is a clock in front of them saying, this is where we start this.
As the week wears on, we will unpack more audio from LSU's visit at SEC Media Days. If anything really, really pops from any of the other schools, we'll touch on that as well. Our sister station, 104.5, has got the thing covered from top to bottom all day long. They've got basically everybody but Charles and Jimmy are over there right now. Along with LSU yesterday, they heard from Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. Today on the schedule, Kirby Smart's going to lead things off. You get Georgia, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Tennessee are slated for today. Coming up tomorrow will be Bama, Florida, Mississippi State, Texas, and then on Thursday, Arkansas, Auburn, Kentucky, and Texas A&M will round things out. It's 6:20. Here's the Fox Business Report. All right. Good morning, sweetheart. How are you? We need a tangible goal to win game one. Yes, actually. I no, because it's a non-conference game. Your goal at the beginning of the season should be to win your conference, right? That's not tangible on a game-to-game basis. It's a non-conference game. So and I know coaches will tell you, well, the next game's the most important game. There's different levels of importance. So yeah, I'm on board with that theory. Jeff Reynolds. Jeff Reynolds. All right, let's see what we got cooking right here. As far as delays are concerned on the interstate, the main thing that we're looking at right now is there is an accident. I'm sorry, a stalled vehicle in the roadway. It's been on the board for almost an hour now. 10 eastbound at Acadian Thruway. However, if you look at the map, not a whole lot of delays as a result of it. Now we are looking at some slowdowns on 12 westbound as you approach the 10-12 merge in between Drusilla and the merge. Backing things out to Denham Springs, we're looking good all the way in on 12 West coming in from Livingston, 10 West coming in from Ascension Parish. Can tell you that on I-110 southbound near the, let's see here, it is 110 southbound near the exit to get off and go to the old bridge. 110 southbound, the exit to 190 is closed right now. That is closed right now. I'm pretty sure it is due to an accident. Regardless, though, there is the closure that is reported. So if you're taking 110 southbound and need to head to the old bridge, you might have to go up an exit and then flip back around to come back to it. That's 190. That's out by the airport. So that is what we're looking at on your interstates this morning. On your surface streets, there's a stalled vehicle, scenic at Williams, or I'm sorry, scenic at Blunt, that might be jamming things up. But again, that's it. Another one that's been on the board for more than an hour, so that very well may be gone. That's your look at traffic from the Talk 107.3 Traffic Center. .625 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Got the chance to go to the press club yesterday. The Baton Rouge Press Club meets every Monday. Always bringing great speakers along for just items that are in the news that we're going to want to talk about a little bit more. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. Yesterday, we heard from Jeff Reynolds. And he was talking about the state of rural hospitals when it comes to how the One Big Beautiful Bill will affect things. I want to start with some of the basics here. Give me 1 second, y'all. I'm pulling my notes together. Like I said, we're in a number of different directions this morning. And there we go. Jeff Reynolds is the head of the Louisiana Rural Hospital Coalition. I just want to make sure I had the name of the group right. The head of the Louisiana Rural Hospital Coalition. And he spoke yesterday talking about the 49 hospitals that he represents and what the effects of the One Big Beautiful Bill are going to be. A couple of items to take note of here. Number one, when it comes to the effects of the One Big Beautiful Bill, you got to start narrowing things down. Narrowing things down as to how many customers it's going to affect. rural or urban, how many customers it's going to affect, or how many people who go to a hospital it will affect. When you have the breakdown in Louisiana of how insurance breaks down, you've got what, roughly 1 point. You know what? I'm not going to try and explain the numbers. I'm pretty sure he has the numbers and talking about the breakdown of where insurance comes from.
In Louisiana, we have the Medicaid expansion program and the Medicaid legacy program. So right now in Louisiana, we have 1.6 million people enrolled in the Medicaid program. In Medicare right now, there's an estimate of about 900,000 people in the Medicare program. And then there's 1.8 million people that have private insurance. That leaves us about 300,000 people that are uninsured. So when you look at Medicaid expansion, Medicaid legacy, and uninsured, that represents 41.3% of the state either is in the Medicaid program or uninsured. I always try to stress to everybody that as you take people out of the Medicaid program, yes, some will go into private insurance, but big bulk of them will also go into the uninsured program. As Medicaid or Medicare pays less, then that puts pressure on the Medicaid providers when they negotiate their rates with private insurance to charge those guys more money. So it is all interrelated. We've got 4.6 million people. So you've always got to remember the providers are trying to balance their finances between those four groups in essence, and how we finance that is always important. And with the large number of people in Medicaid and in the uninsured, we've got more in those groups than we've got in private insurance. So it becomes very difficult to maintain operations, maintain the services across the state for everybody.
Okay. A lot of numbers thrown out at once right there. But I want to kind of break that down because there's one number that's more important than the rest of them. And that's the 500,000 that are in the Medicaid expanded. When you break it down, Medicare with their 900,000, Medicaid legacy with the 1.1 million, neither of those things are really going to be touched when it comes to the cuts in the one big beautiful bill. Everything breaks down to the Medicaid expansion. And Jeff Reynolds actually elaborated on that when he came around to talking about the work requirements that are going to be put into place.
It applies to adults in the Medicaid expansion population that are 19 to 64, and they need to work, attend school, job training, and do 80 hours per month. And that's going to be effective for January 1st, 2027. There are some exemptions on there. If you're taking care of children under 14, taking care of elderly parents, those types of things would also meet that requirement.
I want to skip to the bottom of the page here because the biggest question is going to be, and we can listen to people break down the numbers all day long, but the biggest question is going to be, are rural hospitals going to be closing? Are we in danger of seeing the closure of rural hospitals in Louisiana?
Over the next 3 or 4 years, the funding for rural hospitals are not being affected by this bill. There are going to be some changes in the financing, some changes in eligibility requirements that may impact us in the future, and we'll have to address them as we get closer. But right now, my main message is that immediately there's no impact. Now, as I outlined here, there may be some impact in the future, and we'll have to deal with that and figure out solutions and work with our federal delegation to address that.
No impact now, no impact until a minimum of 2028, more likely 2029, which, by the way, we've got 2 election cycles until then. Listening to Jeff Reynolds talk yesterday, my biggest takeaway is we might be looking at, on the Medicaid front, one big beautiful mulligan. If the math isn't mathing as we start the process of moving forward, I wouldn't be shocked to see politicians retreat, change things up. If the math is mathing, then stay the course, trim things down, tighten things up. It's 6:30. Here's news. 636 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Time for us, as we do each week, to check in down in New Orleans. The latest from Jeff Crouere. He's the host of Ringside Politics, and he joins us right now. Jeff, how are you, man?
Hey, good morning, Brian.
Got to start off with, you know what? I know where I wanted to start off, but I need to start off with the weather. Y'all have getting pounded with some rains lately, and it's looking like there's the possibility of a rainmaker of a storm that could be named Dexter, but I don't think it's the naming of the storm, but the weather that goes along with it that could be headed this way. How are things on a flood watch in New Orleans?
Yeah, I know. Always a concern this time of the year, and we're in July, so things start ramping up, and we're prepared, we're ready. I mean, it's just something that we have to take precautions for every year. Now, I just heard the hurricane forecast that they lowered the number of storms that we're supposed to be dealing with this year. So I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, lowered the number of storms, but you get hit by one, you get hit by one. That's
exactly.
And if you've already got a city that's saturated, I mean, I was bumping around NOLA.com last night, saw that a whole bunch of people lost power yesterday. As y'all were getting pounded with some pretty heavy rain. So you don't want rain on top of rain just to set up in front of a storm.
No, because we always have historic trouble, and and then there's always concerns about the Sewage and Water Board, and I mean it's just a very nervous time for most people around here. Yeah, it's been there have been some summers in recent years where it's been extremely dry. This has not been the situation this year at all.
No, it feels like those afternoon monsoons have been intense, to say the least.
Definitely, and a lot of rain yesterday. Yeah, it's just been pounding us. So I'm just hoping, we don't have much of an event with this storm, but we're going to keep our guard up.
Absolutely. Let's pivot over. Am I reading this right that y'all are due for new homeless sweeps in the French Quarter?
Yeah, it looks like the problem there is just becoming more and more of an issue, and now we've got a call for the state police to help with this. And, it's a quality of life issue, obviously.
Yeah.
And this is where our tourists go, and it's just becoming a worse and worse problem. I was just down there the other day. And, it's overrun with homeless folks. We've got homeless camps. I mean, it's just all over the place. I mean, the CBD was down there the other day, homeless all over. So, yeah, I do think we need to start sweeping more. They're talking about the French Quarter, parts of Marigny, but, the problem is bad in the CBD as well.
Now, Jeff, we just went through this as, all the Super Bowl prep was going on. And, I mean, it was at a time where you need to get people off the streets for their own safety because of the blizzard. But this feels like it's really recent since then. Is there a way to know if these are the same people?
That's a great question. Now, that facility that they opened to put all the people in to prepare for the Super Bowl closed.
Mm-hmm.
So, this could be part of the same people. I mean, or it could be others that come. I mean, we attract homeless from all over. I don't know how much of a long-term solution this is going to be. We're only talking about a little more than $250,000. I mean, that just seems to be, a pretty small dent in the issue for the new state police detail. But there's a lot of goodwill concerning the state police. The feeling from a lot of people, and I think it's very justified, is the state police, Troop Noel, is a big reason why our crime rate is down so much.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they feel the state police can maybe help with this. This is another long-term problem that New Orleans has faced, and that's homelessness.
Yeah, let's hope they can, because the reports that have been coming in on the tourism front is I don't know if there's NOLA fatigue right now, but what was the big not Comic-Con, GalaxyCon was in town last week, and a lot of the reports coming out of there was like you're starting to see attendance at New Orleans events start to taper a little bit.
Well, Essence was down big time.
Yeah.
and yeah, and we've also had some restaurant closures in the past few weeks. Some
Dude, Palace
disturbing.
Cafe.
I know, I know, and that's I can I remember going to that when it first opened. I mean, that was a hot restaurant to go to, and then over the years, I think it deteriorated a little bit as Canal Street became more of a challenge,
Right.
and I guess it was just some problems with the lease, and they left open the possibility that they may reopen, but that was a sad thing because that place was really good in the beginning, really good.
Is there a way to bring Canal Street back to its glory? I mean, is there a way to bring it back to where it's, it is it's always going to be the heart of the city. It's always going to be the biggest boulevard of the city. But like, is there a way to bring Canal Street back to what it used to be without having rundown shops along the way? I mean, is that a bygone era, or is that something that's reattainable?
I think if the crime situation could be tackled, because it's a problem on Canal Street with crime,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course, as you say, you've got crappy storefronts there on Canal Street. I mean, Canal Street used to be back in the day the place where people would go and shop. It was a great attraction. Now, of course, you have crime, you have filth. It's not exactly the Canal Street of old. So I think the new mayor, whoever that might be, could certainly make that a priority. And I think it should be, because it's really the dividing line between the French Quarter and the CBD. It's one of the world's premier cities. You have the streetcar running down there.
Mm-hmm.
It takes you from the lake to the river. It's a beautiful street.
No, it absolutely is, and it always has been. But it just and there's still a few staples that exist. Rubenstein's, as I sit here wearing a gorgeous purple Haspel shirt, Rubenstein's is one of them. But
the Sanger's,
yeah, and the hotels are top
theater.
notch. But it's all that in between stuff that just it really feels like you have top of the line and then bottom of the line.
You get closer to Claiborne, and you get a severe homeless problem.
Yeah,
right there, and it deteriorates. So, yeah, I think it would be great for the new mayor, whoever that person would be, to work on a revitalization plan for Canal Street. It's really the doorway to the French Quarter, and it's hasn't looked good for a long time, Brian.
As far as long-term goals, man, that would be to me a priority in the mayor's race. Speaking of the mayor's race, we got our first TV commercial out.
Yes, well, the candidate with all the money and a lot of the lead in the polls has jumped out there, and I am seeing a little more interest in the race since Royce Duplessis jumped in. You had sort of a gadfly candidate jump in. Eileen Carter, who led the recall efforts. That was sort of a surprise. A total of 14 candidates are in there, many of them perennial candidates. Manny Chevrolet Bruno, who has been running for years on the theme, a troubled man for troubled times in the city of New Orleans.
Yeah.
Sort of a comedian. So, I mean, it's got a collection of characters, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I guess now we're getting our first test of whether or not just bankrolling this whole thing, just flooding the market with money, flooding the market with TV ads, is that going to pay off for Moreno?
Well, I think the introduction of Duplessis into the race showed that there was an interest in maybe a looking at different candidates, and that people weren't ready to just sort of hand the race to her, because prior to him getting in, I mean, it looked like she was on path to maybe even win in the first primary. So we'll see. I mean, she is definitely the favorite, but I think more people now think that we're going to have a runoff, and we'll see how that all plays out. We got 3 months, going to have debates.
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be, renewed interest in the race. Hopefully we'll have more than a 38% turnout among voters like we did last time. So.
Right. By the way, my advice to every candidate in the race, anytime Helena Moreno says anything, your follow-up question is, yeah, but how?
Yeah.
He
Well,
is. Go ahead.
and the thing about it is, I mean, her major vulnerability, of course, is she's been on the council, and a
Right.
lot of people are going to say, "Well, hey, you could have done more."
Right.
So we'll see.
He is Jeff Crouere, host of Ringside Politics. We always appreciate the time. We'll talk to you next week, man.
Okay, Brian. Take
Later.
care, man.
Yep, you
Thanks.
too. 640, rolling up to 647 at Talk 107.3 FM. Quick programming note, we are not going to have your money now right here. I need to free up some room for Matt Moscona to run. He is in Atlanta at SEC Media Days, and he will join us next. Man, I would start at the river and go block by friggin' block up Canal Street. Because if you get from the river to 10, you've won the battle. Hell, if you get from the river to Loyola, Rampart even. Well, Rampart would be a fair. You have Moscona's number? How do I take pictures of? There we go. All right, cool. 650 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We got ABC News coming your way in 10 minutes. Right now, let's go right back to the hotline. LSU was in the first four yesterday. In fact, they were the first up to the podium. Sans, the commissioner. Joining us now to recap day one of SEC Media Days, we've got Matt Moscona. He's the host of After Further Review, and he's on now. How are you, brother?
Hey, Brian, I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing well. All right, give me the lowdown on how yesterday went down. I'm hard pressed to believe LSU is not going to go undefeated and win the national championship.
Well, it's always interesting to know how narratives will form coming out of this event, because I often say every local market media person knows the team they cover very deeply. What you don't know necessarily is the depth in the league. So, for example, like you and I know who Braylon Moore is, the transfer center from Virginia Tech that LSU got.
Yep.
Probably a pretty critically important piece for LSU this year. You go poll everybody at media days, maybe a handful of people know that name. They just don't pay attention. So I think what all the illustrate, most people don't know what LSU did in the transfer portal and why it was so significant. So this is one of those events where I think people are starting to realize how much talent LSU went and frankly bought in the transfer portal. So I think it's going to start to shape some narratives. But Garrett Nussmeier, Whit Weeks, Chris Hilton were here along with Brian Kelly. And it's what you would expect with those guys. Nuss was here a year ago. Whit is just a big smile and ball of positivity and energy. And Chris Hilton, who is soft-spoken, was, I thought, very thoughtful and fantastic. So a strong day to lead it off for LSU.
You had you had every one of the LSU guys on your show yesterday afternoon. I got to hear the Nussmeier interview. You asked him a question about an interception against Texas A&M, and that answer is what has me thinking we're going to go undefeated. Break down for me what we can expect from Nussmeier this year based off of what he's put in the offseason as far as just, retooling himself.
Yeah, the question I asked was about the one interception that everybody remembers, which was against Texas. It was the first interception against Texas A&M. Remember, LSU had beaten Ole Miss. They blew out Arkansas. They were top 10 in the country. They're up 10 points on the road in the third quarter at A&M. There's a third down play where Nussmeier's rolling to his left, and he could have thrown it away, could have run out of bounds, could have run for a first down, could have done any number of things. And instead he threw it back to the middle of the field. It was picked. 2 plays later, A&M was in the end zone, and LSU ended up losing in that sort of 3-game losing streak. And he told me, I've watched that play 1,000 times. And I said, if you could hop in a DeLorean, crank it up to 88 and go back to that moment, what would you do? And he said, well, I'd find Xavion coming back toward me, or I'd tuck it and run and get the first down. And I think that's the illustration of what Garrett needs to be this year, is an improved version where he has all the physical ability. And he had all that last year, all the smarts, son of a coach, all that stuff. The one thing he didn't have was experience. Mm-hmm. Well, he got that experience last year. Will he learn from those experiences and improve this year? If he does, then it could be a really special season.
Is there any reason for Tiger fans to believe he wouldn't? We saw it with Jaden Daniels. We saw it with Joe Burrow. I'm not putting him in that class yet, but this is what we've seen. This is what we've become accustomed to.
Well, you could throw Zach Mettenberger in that mix as well.
Yeah, very true.
Very average 2012 and was outstanding in 2013. Became, the second 3,000-yard passer in program's history that year. But, look, I'm bullish on Garrett and have been as long as he's been here. But, if you're looking for the reason not to, it's just because if you're someone who has to see it to believe it, and there is validity to that point of view. Until he goes and does it, you have to believe he can do it. But listen, Brian, I was here when Joe Burrow was here in 2019. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing about that season is, the year before, Burrow went the entire month of October without a touchdown pass. I tell people that in their floors, they forget that. But he came here to media days and he said, I don't think there's any reason we couldn't score 40, 50 points a game. And everyone looked at him cross-eyed. They're like, LSU, like the Les Miles team? You guys struggled offensively last year. And lo and behold, it was the greatest offense ever. He knew what they had, and I kind of get a sense Garrett feels similarly. I'm not saying this is going to be an offense that looks like 2019, but I think this is a very confident group. They know they've got a loaded gun, and they just have to go execute.
Okay, so what are we learning about the other teams? Ole Miss, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, they were all there yesterday. Anything big pop?
Well, the interesting thing I think about Ole Miss is they only returned 4 starters, but they have a very favorable schedule. Then you look at South Carolina, by contrast, they return 8 starters. Lenora Sellers is back. They were 9-3, and some argued they should have been in the playoff last year. No. But their schedule is an absolute bear. So much of trying to navigate this part of the season is – who has the fewest questions against the most manageable schedule? And so those two teams are ones where I think Ole Miss might take a pretty significant step back from the roster they had a year ago, where they, by the way, Ole Miss had the most players drafted in their program's history this year. But the schedule might allow the record to be better than maybe they are. And I think the inverse might be true for South Carolina. As for Vanderbilt, remember Diego Pavia is back.
Yeah.
And, they're a team that has, it's interesting the strategy they've taken. They've leaned into the transfer portal and looked for older guys. Guys that are 22, 23 years old. So they're not going to necessarily have the most talented roster, but I think they're going to have an experienced roster. And LSU, of course, does go up to Nashville in October.
Well, a roster like that, what Vanderbilt's putting together, and we talked with Chuck Oliver yesterday, Kind of a if you're 8-4 at Vanderbilt, you're hanging a banner.
Yeah, I mean that's what James Franklin did for a handful of years before he took the Penn State job.
Right.
But Clark Lee getting Vanderbilt to a bowl game last year was stunning, right? And remember they lost the game to Georgia Southern or Georgia State as well. So they were 6-6, won their bowl game to get 7-6, but really they should have been a 7-win team in the regular season. And they lost an overtime game to Missouri. So, I mean, they were a breath away from being, including the bowl, a 9-win team. So they're a confident group. I mean, LSU handled them just fine in Baton Rouge, but I don't think they're going to sleep or sneak up on anybody this year. That's going to be the big difference for Vanderbilt.
We got Matt Moscona on with us. He's the host of AFR. He is in Atlanta for SEC Media Days. So Kirby Smart's first up today. Give us the preview of what to expect from day 2.
Yeah, this is a heavy hitter day. It's Georgia, Auburn, Tennessee, and Texas. And this is going to be one of those days, man, where the circus comes to town. Kirby is part of that, certainly, and because we're here in Atlanta, you'll have a heavy Georgia contingent. But Arch is coming. And I know most people in our audience kind of roll their eyes. Excuse me. But remember, Arch is kind of the national golden child. I mean, he's the Heisman frontrunner. Texas is projected by everybody to make the playoff, projected by many to win the national championship. Steve Sarkisian had them in the semifinals a year ago where they lost that great game to Ohio State. So I think while Georgia is here, Auburn, Tennessee, remember their crazy situation with their quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, who wanted a new NIL deal. They basically said no, so he transferred to UCLA. What does Tennessee do at quarterback? Some really interesting narratives today. And Hugh Freeze is here at Auburn and trying to find a way to get Auburn back to relevance, or he could be in trouble this year if they don't find a way to turn a corner in year 3. So this is a heavy hitter day. Storylines abound.
Hey, you mentioned Hugh Freeze there. Are any of the other coaches in the conference really on the hot seat this year?
I mean, Sam Pittman at Arkansas is the one everybody mentions.
Yep.
I don't know necessarily that it's a hot seat situation as much as it is. The narrative here for a couple of years is that Sam Pittman might just retire. He's got a lake house up in Arkansas. He's coached a long time. He's made a lot of money, and might be time to hand the reins to somebody else. So that would be the other one I think you'd watch this year.
And last one before we get you out of here, Scott. I always appreciate the time, brother. But last one before I get you out of here, who's the big personality that everybody's looking for this year? It feels like since Saban's gone, I don't know what we're dialing into.
Yeah, I mean Lane Kiffin has kind of taken that baton right from the guy that everybody. It used to be Steve Spurrier, who for years. Les Miles was that guy for a long time here. But you do lack a little of that star power and coaching. It was interesting. I was having that conversation with someone yesterday, and they said Sark, and maybe Steve Sarkisian, a guy who has been the head coach at Southern Cal, at Washington, Southern Cal, and now at Texas. He's had some of the biggest jobs in college football. They made the playoff a year ago. Maybe Sark is that guy. Oddly, considering Kirby will be here today and he's won 2 national championships, but maybe it's Sark, but there's definitely the lack of that big time star power among these head coaches.
He is Matt Moscona, host of AFR. Of course, all the coverage will be over at LouisianaSports.net and our sister station 104.5 ESPN all day long as the whole crew's up there. Always appreciate the time, brother.
Thanks, Brain.
7 o'clock. Here's news. Oh, now I gotta. Where's my phone? The SEC's website has the wrong schedule for who's up today. And subsequently, the wrong schedule for the next 3 days is, if today's is off, then obviously it's got to swap out with something. But they have Texas tomorrow. They have today. They've got Georgia, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. Oh. Really need this email to come across. Hot as balls in here today. My apologies to the chat, to the crew. I've got 5 hours worth of radio today, and I'm missing some keynotes. My wife has sent me screen grabs of them, so I'm trying to get them printed right now. But I took a lot of notes last night and did not have the corresponding audio to go to it. So I'm going to be back and forth, probably more in the 8 o'clock. Well, you know what? I've got 2 in-studio guests along the way. I'm going to do my level best, but I'm going to be back and forth a little bit. I have to cut audio. I have to chop up audio, and I have to do it across the hall. So there's going to be a little bit of my absence this morning, and I apologize for that. $7:05, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing. Starting off your second hour at 74 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Been a busy show thus far, and we have no signs of taking our foot off the gas. By the way, programming note, it's a marathon for your boy today. Moon Griffon's out, and I'm filling in. So if you've already gotten your fill of me, buckle up. It is going to be quite the run here. I've got a full slate ready for Moon's show. We're going to talk with Andrew Ward from the Boot. We're going to talk carbon sequestration in the first hour. We're going to talk tort reform in the first hour. We got in the second hour. That's when we'll have Andrew Ward from the Boot. We'll have State Representative Emily Chenevert on this show. That will air back again in the 10 o'clock hour for all of Moon's audience. We got a jam-packed show lined up from 9 to 11. So, be ready. And I got 2 Red Bulls in the fridge. I'm ready to roll. Right now, top stories and trending.
Number 5.
A corrections officer accused of smuggling multiple drugs in the Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola was arrested Friday. The West Feliciana Parish Sheriff's Office said 35-year-old Lakeisha Brown brought 1.5 pounds of marijuana, 2.2 ounces of fentanyl, and 14 grams of meth onto prison grounds.
Number 4.
LA Wallet will now be accepted as a substitute for physical identification nationwide. Governor Jeff Landry and Office of Motor Vehicles Director Brian Adams said the Transportation and Security Administration has certified that LA Wallet complies with federal requirements.
Number 3.
Mayor President Sid Edwards announced yesterday he was selected for the 9th class of the Bloomberg Harvard Leadership Initiative, joining 47 mayors total from 17 countries to participate in the Professional Management Training Program. Mayor Edwards headed out on Saturday to kick off the participation. He joined Harvard faculty and renowned management leaders in New York City for a 4-day immersive classroom experience. The whole program will formally kick off in August.
Number 2.
At least one person was hurt in a shooting along Plank Road Monday afternoon. This happened near Uncle Moe's Food Mart in Delhi around 3:15 p.m. Actually, the gunshots were around 2:55 p.m. Sources told our news partners at WBRZ one person was taken to a hospital with a gunshot wound. The extent of their injuries is unclear.
Number 1.
We're getting ready for Dexter, y'all. We are now up to a 40% chance of seeing a name storm within the next 48 hours. There is right now, east of the Florida Peninsula in the northeastern, east of the Florida Peninsula, we're looking at a system that's going to be making its way westward over the next day or two. Will be in the northeastern Gulf probably by the end of, if not the end of tomorrow. Well, yeah, by tomorrow. So today's Tuesday. Tomorrow would be Wednesday. Environmental conditions appear generally favorable for additional development as a tropical depression could form while the system moves across the northeastern and north central Gulf. Only reason it hasn't formed yet is there's a lot of shear knocking it down along the East Coast. As the system passes through that, we'll see how it plays out over the next couple days. Was talk with WBRZ's chief meteorologist, Dr. Josh Eachus, about this yesterday. As far as our end of this is concerned, we're expecting some serious rain, but the closer you get to the coast, the more this will be tropical and less just a rain event.
Well, conservative activist Laura Loomer is the latest to call out Governor Jeff Landry and AG Liz Murrill for getting in the way of President Trump's American First energy agenda. Loomer tweeted about the governor's support of the coastal lawsuit, saying it was hypocritical.
Yeah, and she's got quite the platform there.
Yeah,
a lot of people follow her, so it's getting tricky, and I don't know a whole lot about what panned out over the coastal lawsuits during the last legislative session. Of all the things there are to break down, that's one that I just admittedly haven't gotten to yet because we've been so hyper-focused on insurance, and then from there we focused on the budget, and then from there you're breaking down within the budget what we were able to save or flatline so it didn't grow or balloon, and then from there it moves over to Constitutional Amendment number 2, how do you rebuild it, and then from there you start looking at local issues within the legislative session. I mean, there's just so much that got done. And this is what's garnering national headlines.
And keeping it with President Trump here, so President Trump's support of AG Pam Bondi's stance on the Epstein files is causing more and more blowback.
Just put them out there, man. Just put them out there. I saw the president's response at that press conference. It was so deflective, it felt intentional. Like it was like he was goading someone into making a bigger deal about it. Yeah. Are you still talking about Epstein? Really? Are we still talking about Epstein? Are we really?
All the progress we made in all these other areas. Is this what we're really
And then everybody comes back and says, well, why doesn't he want the files out? He's obviously on the list if he doesn't want the files out. He's more calculated than that.
Yeah.
He's more calculated than that. Give him an ounce of credit to say, there are times when you could tell he's trying to garner a reaction out of somebody when it's not what he's actually asking for. Yeah. You know? That was one of those times.
Oof. Well, thinking about lunch here, Burger King is launching their barbecue brisket Whopper today. So
I have such high hopes.
I know.
I have such high hopes.
I'm with you. Sounds great.
The write-ups on this, which, by the way, I was surprised there was that many write-ups on it, but The Whopper gets a smoky summer makeover.
Okay.
The Whopper's always been Burger King's crown jewel, but this latest launch promises to bring something bolder to the table. While the classic flame-grilled taste remains, this summer's limited edition Whopper will feature a layered build with cheese, crisp lettuce, fresh tomatoes, onions, and creamy mayo, combined with a special sweet, tangy sauce to add extra summer flair. It's so. You remember that SNL sketch with Adam Sandler and Chris Farley, and they were husband and wife? Farley was the wife, and she just read from Zagat's.
Yeah.
This is what everything about this Whopper feels like.
Oh man.
So terrible.
But you're gonna try it, though.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be disappointed. I already know that. 712 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. With the storm possibly looming or heading towards the Gulf of Mexico, it's fair to ask questions about FEMA and the state of FEMA and the state of the National Hurricane Center and NOAA and where we are with cuts and what we do without these organizations running at full speed. Jerry Theodorou with the R Street Institute has some thoughts. He will join us next. He should be calling us. If not, that don't do me much good, does it? Man, that was a short break. All right. 7:15, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We are looking at potential cuts to the National Weather Service and to NOAA. It's already been the topic of political fodder after the flash floods in Texas. We here in Louisiana, we rely on a lot when it comes to the National Weather Service and NOAA, especially when it comes to tracking storms and whatnot. Joining us now to talk about the potential of how things could turn out, we've got Jerry Theodorou, ICE Policy Director of Finance, Insurance, and Trade over there at the R Street Institute. He's on with us now. How are you, man?
Yes, fine, Brian. Good to talk to you.
Likewise. Always love having you on. Let's start with what the cuts actually look like. As I don't know that, like, all the tools that I use, that I borrow from the National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center, they haven't gone away. So have we seen what's to come, or is there more to come?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. But before talking about the agencies and data, I think the thing that's foremost on my mind and broke my heart was the events of July the 4th. The entire nation mourned because it was a double catastrophe. Not only did it take the lives of so many people, but so many of them, sort of unprecedented, were young children who were innocent and were just swept away, literally. So it was a heartbreaking event, and hopefully one that we'll learn from and strengthen ourselves with. And
Well,
as for
hey,
the cuts, I'm sorry, go
no,
ahead.
Jerry, you're talking to a father of a daughter who that very next that Sunday I was dropping my daughter off at a camp in a different part of Texas. So good 5-hour drive with nothing but that on my mind, to be sure. Yeah, that's our hearts have been heavy since then, for sure.
Yeah, and as to the data streams that are produced by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, we haven't seen exactly what's happening. I think it's still in process of transition, and there's some lack of clarity. I use NOAA data, writing reports on homeowners insurance, so pull data from states where the data is available. And the data is used by modelers. There are these risk models that insurance companies and reinsurance companies and other providers of data on catastrophes use. So the outputs that NOAA provides from satellites and from weather balloons, we don't know exactly how much of that is going to stay or will be replaced by other services. So really, not a lot of clarity there. The cuts at many government agencies have been sort of sudden and dramatic. People were being let go, and then they were rehired, and some of them were refired. So we're not sure exactly what the picture looks like.
Is there a way for us to absorb this as it comes and see what's reasonable and what's not? As I understand it, one of the programs that got cut was getting rid of a 50-plus-year-old satellite program so that they can move over to something that was much more efficient. But all we heard about was the cut end of it, and not that it was going to actually make things more improved.
Yeah, again, don't know much there. I've sent some questions across to NOAA a few weeks ago and didn't get a lot of answers. But one thing that we do know is that there is activity to look at the existing management of disaster relief. The FEMA Review Council was formed in January, actually. There was a presidential, an executive order in January to form this council to look at ways in which the disaster relief function can be more efficient. The council includes a lot of people that have got good experience. The executive director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management, Kevin Guthrie. You've got the Texas Division of Emergency Management Chief Nim Kidd, and where you are, the Chief of Staff for the former Governor John Bell Edwards, Mark Cooper, is on that. So we have some people there with experience with disaster relief, and we'll see what they come up with. The deadline for their report is November 16th, so mid-November. We'll see what the recommendations are. The council is chaired or co-chaired by Christy Nome from DHS and Secretary Pete Hegseth, Department of Defense. So they're the co-chairs, and a lot of folks there, like Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, Bill Bryant, the former governor of Mississippi, have a lot of experience with catastrophes. So we just hope that their sound recommendations will be received by the administration and implemented.
We're talking with Jerry Theodorou from the R Street Institute about managing disaster response, well, prep and response for that matter. Jerry, you say in your op-ed there's pros and cons to FEMA's disaster relief efforts being shunted to states. Walk us through some of those pros and cons.
Yeah, the way it's been functioning, the states have really been responsible. They're the primary responsibility for disaster relief. And FEMA, the federal government, provides supplemental support and resources to add to what the states are already providing. So it really is like a coordinated effort between the states and the federal government in the form of FEMA, and also local resources too, local municipal resources that are there. So it's been this partnership between those three entities. So that's hard to coordinate when you've got different reporting lines. But this is the way it's been working for many years. Maybe it's not the most efficient way, but this is the way it's been. So I think it's a matter of how much one of these three entities will bear, more or less, going forward. Again, that's going to come from the recommendations of the council. Matter of fact, the council met in New Orleans last week, and your governor addressed the council right in New Orleans. That was the second meeting they had. That was the second meeting of the council. It's public council, so people can see, who's on the council and what's being discussed. So there's some disclosure there, which is useful for analysts like me.
Jerry, as someone who's sitting here in Louisiana and has had to, fill out forms for FEMA and seek aid from FEMA in the past, I can tell you we're not too happy with the way things are right now. What do you say to those that would just be fine throwing out the baby with the bathwater because we've been so frustrated with the level of bureaucracy, red tape, and just impossibility of getting help in a time of need? I mean, if they're the Federal Emergency Management Agency and they have failed in their task of managing emergencies, like how do you tell the folks that that have seen it up close and personal, like it could be worse than this?
Yeah, and what you said there about not throwing out the baby with the bathwater is, I think, something we need to consider. Yes, there's imperfections and there's sometimes lack of coordination. The left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing, but we got to come up with a better alternative. I mean, when you're considering change to a process, there's three possibilities. One, you can just leave it as it is and not change anything, or you can just gut it completely and throw it out, or you can tweak around the edges and make some incremental changes and try to make it more efficient. And I think that's the way that it should go, because, I mean, it's easy to destroy something if you rip up the flowers from your garden, but what are you planting? Are you planting anything, or are you going to leave nothing? We don't want nothing.
Right.
We want an effort that is coordinated with these three entities, and again, the states are leading the charge. And as happened on July the 4th, the first responders that came in there, I think, were state guard.
We got Jerry Theodorou from the R Street Institute talking about what happens in the case of emergency if you were to gut FEMA. Let's walk through it, Jerry. If we were to gut FEMA completely, what would be the repercussions there? I mean, on a state's end, we're looking at manpower problems. We're looking at money problems. What are we looking at?
Exactly that. It would be overwhelming. It would be overwhelming because not only do we have the experience that you've had, but also we've had a change in the actual exposure, a change in the risk load. These events are getting more and more frequent. We had on July the 4th the Chenevert catastrophe, but at the same time, there was a similar flash flooding going on in parts of Pennsylvania, in Lancaster and other counties, in Tennessee, in Kentucky, in upstate New York, in western New York State.
Right.
And just a couple of days ago, there was flash flooding in New York and New Jersey. So we're seeing the frequency and the severity of these events increasing. We're living in a time where we've got extremes. You've got extreme drought on the one hand, you've got not enough water, and then you've got the extreme flooding on the other hand. And then they're related. When the water vapor capacity is increased because of rising temperatures, air temperatures, you've got more water that's in the clouds, and when it comes down, because it's got so much more volume, it creates these kinds of flash floods. And then right there in Crouere, Texas, the July 4th catastrophe. If we go back a few decades, we found that this is not the first time it happened.
Right.
1977, there was flash flooding in Crouere. 1987, also. So we can't be surprised by these kinds of events because they are happening. Tennessee, Kentucky, New Mexico, mudslides, flash floods. So almost no place is safe now. So it's not, them, other people that are impersonal. This is really striking close to home and makes us think there, but for the grace of God, go high.
All right, last one before we get you out of here, and I'm going to let you choose which path you want to take here. Would you rather crystal ball where you think this committee is going to go, or would you rather tell us what you would do if you were in charge?
I would try to preserve what works and think about cutting, what doesn't work, and that takes the kinds of analysis that are that's being done. I'm not an expert in disaster management, and my expertise is on the insurance side, and this is an area actually which is also coming to the fore. So such a small percentage of the folks in Central Texas carry flood insurance. People all across the country are exposed to flooding, whether it's flash flooding, whether it's levees and dams bursting, which have been historically the biggest sources of flooding. So really sitting down and having a sober analysis of what's worked and what hasn't worked. I don't have a map there. I'll be following what the council says, and hopefully the next time we'll talk, we'll have some good news to share instead of more disasters.
You know what I said, Jerry? I said that was going to be the last one, and I totally lied. The insurance side is the important side, and this is your milieu. So, if FEMA were to be gutted, what would you expect the reaction to be on the insurance side? I mean, I would expect it to be, especially if you live in a coastal state, harder to find insurance companies that want to come play in your backyard.
Yeah, that's right. The insurance companies associate premium and with risk. What's the magnitude of the risk? What are the expected losses? And then you come up with the premium for that. And when there's uncertainty about what exactly the risk load is, if some of these data streams from National Weather Service and NOAA are not available, insurance companies will want to err on the side of caution and have a risk load for the unknown if they're no longer getting information on, what's the magnitude of the risk. So if FEMA is gutted, one might expect insurance companies to be more conservative in terms of what the premium they charge is and err on the side of caution. So not a pretty picture, which is why we're looking to the council to really come up with recommendations that are sound and are rooted in history and in science.
And hopefully seeing all pieces on the chessboard, to be sure. He is Jerry Theodorou with the R Street Institute. We always appreciate the time, man. Good stuff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep, absolutely. Coming up on 7:30 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Need to remind you about the folks over at Vex European. VexEuropean.com is the website. I am a very, very happy customer of Vex European. I drive an 18-year-old car, 18-year-old Mercedes. It takes a lot to keep that thing smooth. And Vex European is where I get that level of Vexpertise, if you will. Master level technician for my Mercedes. Knows the history of my car because I've been going there for a little while now. Knows how to take care of my car. And if you drive a European vehicle, a BMW, a Mercedes, a Jaguar, an Audi, whatever, they've got you covered. Check them out online at Vex European, VEX, V as in Vinny, VexEuropean.com. phone with our new system. Yeah, yeah. I cannot, but it's so much easier for you to text me and say I'm here, because if it's the middle of a segment, I'm like, I don't have to say hang tight for 10 minutes or send John down or whatever. Like I can just hit a button and good to go. Right now, the only problem is me actually paying attention to my phone. Kill a mic, Sean. 738 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hey, a quick shout out to Miller's RV and the Louisiana Travel Association. We're getting ready for Brian's big adventure. I hate saying my name like in the third person. Taking the fam on the road in an RV, courtesy of the folks over at Miller's RV, and we're going to be visiting a couple spots along the way to get the take in the beauty that is traveling in Louisiana. This is going to be coming up Friday the 28th through the following Monday. Just a 4-day excursion. Not going full Griswold, but all the content's going to be available on Talk 107.3 FM's social media. Look, whether this is a success or a failure, we're putting it out there for you. Experience Louisiana firsthand. Get up close with nature in Louisiana and do it in style with an RV. So shout out to Louisiana Travel Association and Miller's RV for putting that together. All right. Told you we're all over the place. Time to bring it back home. Let's look at the riverfront. Let's look at downtown Baton Rouge. Let's talk Plan Baton Rouge Phase 3. Chris Meyer from the Baton Rouge Area Foundation back in. How are you, man?
Hey, I'm great. How are you, Brian?
Doing very well. Just give me the unedited, unabashed version. Do you see me as an RV guy?
Yes.
Okay. I actually take this as a compliment. All right.
I had a lot of images when you were reading that intro. So I think this is going to be highly entertaining.
I'm hoping so. But like at the same time though, I want this to go to plan. But you know it's going to be more entertaining if it doesn't, right?
So is it more like the Griswold family, or is it like Great Outdoors? What are we thinking this sort of ends up like?
I want more Clark Griswold and less Cousin Eddie.
Okay.
If that
yes,
you know,
yes.
He had an RV.
He did.
A tenement on wheels. That's not what I'm getting from Miller's though. We're going top notch for sure. No, we're gonna head down the road. We might hit up Boca Chica. There's an RV park in Robert. I never thought I would vacation in Robert, but it's this gorgeous park with this water park there and everything. So
totally, I'm going to encourage you to go north too. I mean, I'm from North Louisiana. You know, there's a lot of great spots. Get up to Toledo Bend.
Toledo Bend is I need to lobby the wife for that one. Toledo Bend is super nice. Ag Commissioner Dr. Mike Strain has been pushing me towards Indian Creek.
Yep.
Which I understand is phenomenal. See, this is the problem. We might have to make it an ongoing thing. Because I'm going to have to pick and choose.
Oh, and I think you need to do interviews along the way. This could be a new sort of summer shtick.
Are there people that I would, like where? At any?
Everywhere.
Okay.
I mean,
all right.
We'll talk next time.
Where North Louisiana are you from?
Shreveport.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Something else I'm working on, by the way.
Yeah, let's move to talk about this riverfront.
Well, yeah, okay. It remind me after this segment about where I want the next Buc-ee's. All right. Baton Rouge. Plan Baton Rouge Phase 3. We've seen our first public meeting. Next public meeting's coming up tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, yeah. This is a big week for Plan Baton Rouge 3. So we are hosting several events this week, but the premier one, the one that's really focused on the entire community, is tomorrow night, 5:00, the old state capitol. You'll have an opportunity between 5 and about 7:30 to come in. There'll be a brief presentation, but really now we're starting to focus on the big areas that we want to activate, that we want to catalyze, what's going to be our sort of catalytic projects as part of Plan Baton Rouge 3. And tomorrow night starts to set the tone for that.
Okay. What have we discerned from what's already been inputted?
Yeah, I mean, look, we had, hundreds and hundreds of online responses, some who were, as we talked about last time, entering the same comment over and over at 3 a.m, but we'll get past that. Fun Park is
Funfair Park needs to come back, Chris.
Maybe.
Don't discount that, man.
It's on the list. All
right.
But look, I think number one, everyone wants to see our riverfront activated.
Yes.
This is stretching from the Queen all the way down to the water campus. How can we begin to really leverage the waterfront, get on the other side of the levee? And there's some awesome ideas from around the country of communities that also deal with rivers that are being navigated by industry and other sort of activities, of how you can get over there safely and really enjoy that. And so this plan 100% will focus on something on the river that both in certain spots has really sort of activated great destinations, but also connects, like I said, from the water campus all the way to north of the Queen. I think that's really important to us.
How far north of the Queen? I mean, we go all the way to Exxon?
Probably not that far.
Okay.
But let's start. Let's make sure we're covering from the Capitol down to the water campus,
Yes.
and I think we're making a start. And I think again, there's a lot of opportunities. Whether we're building out on the other side of the levee, creating new parks where kids and families can go to play. There's a lot of ideas that have been out there. Folks are bringing back the not just Fun Fair Park, but amphitheaters, other ideas of sports fields that might be along the river. So again, there's going to be a huge focus of getting
Wait.
to the river.
When you say sports fields along the river, are we talking like for are we baseball, soccer? What are we looking at?
Think about the Fly in New Orleans, behind Audubon Park. There are spaces along the river from the Queen down that you could really begin to activate in new ways. Plan Baton Rouge 2, for example, had an actual bike path that was sort of moving through the Batcher just north of the IBM building that would have you out walking or biking over the river and in that tree line. So there's some exciting ideas that were part of Plan 2 that hadn't been fulfilled. And so Plan 3 is both looking at the past, but also listening and looking to the future.
We're talking with Chris Meyer from the Baton Rouge Area Foundation about Plan Baton Rouge Phase 3 and where it's headed. All right, Riverfront's going to be a big part of the whole thing, but I want to make sure we manage our time right. Let's move back to this side of the levee.
Yep.
Revamping the Raising Cane's River Center is going to be huge. Where are we at with that right? Where are we at that right with that right now? Because that was part of like a multi-tiered, plan. So how do we make sure this part of the plan continues to move forward?
Yeah, so great news. As part of the River Center Commission, we've actually now the city has hired, the Metro Council has hired an owner's representative, someone to look out for their interests and think about how do we develop a public-private partnership to both revamp the River Center, sort of expand our flexible convention meeting spaces, add an entertainment venue that would be sort of mid-range, mid-size, so about 2,500, 3,000 people capacity, and then a headquarter hotel. That was the vision, because this was really going to be a complementary asset to the new LSU arena that's being discussed. So that is still on track. We're watching the LSU developments, and very much we're excited for the idea that there would be a major community arena and also a major arena that serves LSU athletics. But we think the River Center can fit in this really sweet spot of both adding a headquarter hotel, which makes it viable. No convention sort of center around the country today is viable without a headquarter hotel. Think about sort of top of the line. This would be a destination staycation type hotel with all sorts of amenities, restaurants, entertainment venues like we discussed, and really sort of, I think, be an iconic symbol, changing the physical footprint and the skyline of Baton Rouge. That's the vision for what happens around the River Center. And then, like I said, having an entertainment venue that really kind of fits in the middle. We don't have a sort of sweet spot between a sort of 1,000-person capacity theater in Baton Rouge and something that's much larger.
How big is the River Center Theater now? The one that
River Center Theater, but that's fixed chairs, and it's about 2,000.
Yeah.
But that's fixed seats, so you can't sort of attract the kind of concerts or have the flexibility of space. And again, if once we're selling huge sort of conventions of 15, 20, 25,000 people, you're going to need additional breakout space. So that's the idea, is to make sure we're being nimble and flexible, but also complementing what else is happening in the city.
When you're talking about a convention center, when you're talking about, bringing people in for that sort of thing, that is awesome and that is good business, but it's also a constant hustle. That is Jill Kidder having to wake up and put her track shoes on every day.
She's fantastic.
No, she is. Where in Plan Baton Rouge Phase 3, where is the let's go hunting for whales and bring in another IBM? Where is the let's go find big business so that we don't have to go hunt every day? We have downtown residents. We have downtown revenue. We have that vibrance going on because they work here.
So I'm glad you asked this question, because this is what I think distinguishes Plan Baton Rouge 3 from previous plans. We are, as we talk tomorrow night and the rest of this week, we've got an event with Forum 225 on Thursday night, getting a lot of young people involved. We're talking about big ideas, but at the end of the day, we're also going to narrow in on very specific, actionable projects, because what builds momentum is actually showing success. And so out of this plan, including the river, will be 5 catalytic projects that we've got partners for, We have real sort of financial models, pro formas, and we have plans to begin investing day one as soon as the plan's delivered in these different projects. So the River Center we've talked about, that's going to be one of them.
Right.
Something along the river that's really activating that space will be another one. And then there's a few other sites that we want to target both for business and some other announcements I can't make yet. But I will tell you there's a lot of folks who are coming out saying, how can I contribute? I own this piece of land. What could it be? And that's happening alongside the public planning process so that at the end, we sort of marry the vision and ideas that a lot of community members have with actual plans that can transform our riverfront.
Why is it economic development announcements are more tighter sealed than grand juries? Like I can,
well, look,
I can get at the Colonel's original recipe before I can get at anything that would leak out of BRAC.
Listen, we want things to happen.
I understand,
and as you know, in this world, a lot of things are moving, a lot of moving parts, but it's really a moment that I think you see a lot of stars aligning. People are playing their roles on the greater team. It's not about individual organizations. It's about us as a community, which is why, you know, the voice of every one of your listeners being involved. Even if you can't make it out, planbatonrouge.com is the place you can go to continue to make your voice heard, identify places on the map you're interested in, add feedback, but show up at these public meetings, hear the big ideas, contribute, because ultimately this downtown belongs to all of us.
Tomorrow night, 5 p.m. to 7:30 at the
Old State Capitol.
At the Old State Capitol. This will be the second big public meeting. Not the last one, though.
No.
There will be plenty more to come.
This is, again, tomorrow is really about starting to narrow in the zones of interest. The next time we're all back together, late August, early September, that's when we're going to start throwing out the really big ideas, the really big investments we're ready to make. And that's when it takes all of us to roll up our sleeves and get it done.
Love it. He is Chris Meyer from the Baton Rouge Area Foundation. With tomorrow, I remember for the last public meeting, parking was a bit of an issue. Are there recommendations ahead of time?
There's a parking garage at 3rd Street
in Convention.
Yep. That is 1 block away from the Old State Capitol. I'll tell you, this is a shorter walk than if you park at the back of the Target parking lot. So it's if you measure these distances, we've got to get used to, if we're going to have a grown-up downtown, we've got to get used to the idea that we might park in a garage and walk a few blocks.
Downtowns are where you walk. So, but no, that was much, much closer than last time around. He is Chris Meyer. Always appreciate the time, brother.
Good seeing you, bro.
750. Here's your money now. All right. Yeah, that was the number of people who complained about that. I'm like, well, no, this was the last meeting was at the height of the bowlers. The bowlers are largely dispersed by now, so there might be some street parking available. But yeah, there's bowlers all over the damn River Center. Just park on Billy's lawn. Well, no, but like to get to the Old State Capitol is what I mean. You're adding like all of another 1 block to get to this. But at least the same level. Yeah, you're not going down the hill yet, right? That's I guess that's fair. Okay, so building out on the other side of the levee, do you build up to the levee's height?
Yeah, I mean, one idea is that you, depending on where the hotel goes,
Well, but they've already got one by the well, it doesn't go over the railroad track. The bell, yeah, but the bell doesn't go over the railroad track either. Also, it collapsed. That was a whole other story. But yeah, some kind of, and I would like to see 2 of them. One closer to Laurel or Maine, and then if you want the goal to be the all of the riverfront, state capital to, then there's plenty of free parking down there. There's like that in, and let the attractions do the work. What I keep envisioning is more like a boardwalk. So you would be at the height of the levee, not dropping back down.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in 2. In that little wooded area, the Bachelor over by IBM.
Yeah.
There's going to be a trail through there. So that's back in the plan that we're going to show that.
Okay.
And then we're thinking about this sort of river
Holy shit. That would be cool. Would we want to close off 3rd Street? Just make it pedestrian? They can't even do that with Bourbon. From ooh. Ooh. No, no, no. I like it. I do like it. I just that would take some getting used to. Because oh, totally, totally. Um, I'm only taking one day. I had to cancel my whole vacation. It's Monday the. As soon as the show is over with on Friday the 25th, I'm out, and then I'm back on Tuesday the 29th. So we're like 2 nights in one spot, 1 night in another spot. Um, and is this really like as this is taking off? I want to turn it into a whole thing. Like I would like either McThurns or Chris's specialty foods to throw me some food, so that's featured. Like if I'm gonna do this as a influencer, I want to do it full on where I'm not out of pocket anything. But the talks with it started with me doing just a bit about RVing, and I actually said I want to be Clark Griswold, not Cousin Eddie. It was a funny bit. The owner of Village RV tracked me down and said I don't have an advertising budget, but this is what I like to do. I like to give you the RV for which our fees run for like $300 a day. I know. So, right? Oh, by the way, the BRAC, the Economic Development Office being tight sealed. I say that on purpose because they're super proud of that, in just the hopes that they're listening. That they're always proud of that. So it's like a pat on their back. See you tomorrow night. Always. Yep. You too. 7:55 at Talk 107.3 FM at WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. All right. Coming up at 8:05, we have got State Representative Emily Chenevert going to be joining us. So that moves This Day in History, which is presented by 5 Star Printing and Signs. That moves This Day in History up to right now.
All right, let's see. 1799. The Rosetta Stone is found in the Egyptian village of Rosetta by French Captain Pierre Francois Bouchard during Napoleon's Egyptian campaign.
Okay.
And speaking of Napoleon, 1815, Napoleon surrenders to Captain Frederick Maitland of HMS. So, yeah, after his earlier defeat at the Battle of Waterloo. We just talked about that the other day.
We did.
Yep.
Yes, we did.
1916, Boeing Company forms by William Boeing in Seattle, Washington this day. Let's see. Ooh, tragic news here. 1974, American TV news reporter Christine Chubbuck shoots herself live on WXLT TV.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I don't know this one. Christine what?
Yeah, she's the first person to commit suicide in a live
Spell that last name?
broadcast. Chubbuck. Chubbuck.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't even know this story. I got to learn about this one.
That's insane. Wow. Yeah, that came up, and tragic indeed. Wow. 1988, Die Hard, starring Bruce Willis and Alec Rickman.
Yeah.
Released.
So this is one of those ones where they'll use the release date to tell you it's not a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
because it didn't come out at Christmas time.
But it's totally a Christmas
It's
movie.
totally a Christmas movie.
Absolutely. Speaking of debuts, 2016 Stranger Things debuts on Netflix today.
Oh, awesome. 2016?
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Were you a fan of Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Is it still on?
It's a new season's coming soon, eventually.
2 seasons and I was done.
Yeah.
I watched the first episode of the 3rd season and I was like, done.
Yeah.
But my level of give a you know what just fell right off the map.
Oh man. Yeah, let's see. 2024, 1 year ago, Donald Trump picks Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his Republican vice presidential running mate.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Oof. Time.
Yep.
Let's see. Moving on to birthdays?
Yes.
All right. Let's see. We got Dutch artist Rembrandt.
Okay.
Artist
You
Rembrandt.
can roll with Rembrandt for sure.
Actor Forrest Whitaker as well today.
Oh, fantastic.
Gabriel Iglesias. Linda Ronstadt as well.
Gabriel Iglesias, the comedian?
Yeah, Fluffy.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Linda Ronstadt, saw her, sure.
Let's see. Who else we got? I know I have one more for you. Adam Savage as well today.
Who?
Adam Savage. You remember Mythbusters?
I sure do.
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff on that front.
Jesse Ventura as well.
It's Jesse Ventura's birthday. I didn't even see that one. I had on the sports front, former LSU basketball player Anthony Randolph.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Moving on to deaths here. Martin Landau.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And then Versace.
Versace was assassinated today. Yes. And on this day in 1883, General Tom Thumb.
All right.
Yeah, he passed away on this day.
National days. National Give Something Away Day.
That's fine. We can roll with that one. Only because we're out of time.
Yeah.
It's 8:00. Here comes news on Talk 107.3. Yo.
Yo, ma.
I'm golden. How are you? I do like that. What's Oh. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got a T-shirt. That's pretty damn nice. I do. I will stick with mine though. When do you want to test to make sure we're good to go with Joe? You do it during the next break? Okay. All right. Do you have Joe's number? Okay. Yeah. You now have Joe's number. Joe Cunningham. He's filling in. He might be filling in for the morning show right now. But Walker, Moon's son, who also produces, Walker said contact Joe. What part we're going to use for Moon show is when I say time to welcome in. 8:05. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing. We are starting off the third hour of the show at 78 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Going to be a busy, busy hour. We're going to have State Representative Emily Chenevert coming up in just a minute. Tyler Pager is he's the New York Times White House correspondent and co-author of the book 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and Democrats Lost America. That'll be coming up at 8:20. Also, this hour, we've got Congressman Troy Carter, a little D.C. Current presented by LABI. Before we get you to State Representative Chenevert, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's. Yes, they're downtown on 3rd Street. Yes, they're in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center directly across the street from Tiger Stadium, and also back to their OG location. They were first in Baton Rouge as Kenilworth Supermarket on Highland Road, just west of Kenilworth Boulevard or Parkway. They are now back in that location as Mathern's Market. And tomorrow, the grand opening festivities begin, y'all. There will be giveaways, there will be swag, there will be samples, there will be all kinds of deals going on at the new, well, the old that has become new, Mathern's Market on Highland Road, just west of Kenilworth. Tomorrow starts it off. It'll run all the way through Saturday. Different deals, different specials, different giveaways every single day. Yes, they've been open for a little over a month now, but we're calling that a soft launch. It gets underway officially tomorrow at Mathern's. All right, time to welcome in State Representative Emily Chenevert. She had a busy legislative session. How are you?
I'm great. Doing well. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you on this morning. Okay, since last night was the home run derby, let's just start with that comparison. Comparative fault became the 500-foot bomb of the legislative session. Let's before we get into the meat of it, let's walk through the feeling of it.
Yeah.
Like, you're being talked about a lot right now.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things, I think, for me, when you're in there and you're surrounded by your colleagues, there's so many conversations happening, and you know that we're realizing this really could shift how we do lawsuits in Louisiana, something that we all talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So you're, and everyone's supporting, because it takes more than one vote to get things accomplished. And that's why I always say kudos to my colleagues that rally together to help me and help all of us get this across the finish line. So, but then pulling back now after, you begin to see the fallout and the impact of people are talking about it, businesses, truckers, everyday individuals, when I talk to them about it. So it is it's a lot to take in, but I'm humbled by the support from all of my colleagues, the speaker, everybody. It's just been an incredible time there.
It was certainly one of a handful of bills that could potentially make a pretty big difference in our insurance rates, for sure. So let's talk about the nuts and bolts of it. What does comparative fault what does your bill actually do?
Great question. So currently, prior to my bill being passed, we had a pure comparative fault system. And what that means is, as far as just in common sense terms, is that someone could be 95% at fault or 99% at fault and still be able to sue for that 1% or the 5% of damages. And so in the process, and, backing up, I'm on civil law, and we had a lot of meetings prior to session where people were coming in doing testimonies, not just insurance companies, businesses, truckers, talking about their rates shifting over a decade, how much they're paying. A guy in my district was paying $6,500 a truck annually. Now he got a quote for $65,000 annually. So these are within a 10-year span. So if we are listening to the people, we've got to do something about it. And I feel like that's what we did with this bill. And so now we shifted it to where if you're 51% or more at fault, you cannot claim for damages. Now, I don't work in the insurance company, in the insurance world, and I'm not an attorney, but I'm very common sense driven. And the more and more I talk to people, they're like, well, that makes sense. And I said, well, it does make sense because 34 other states have a similar bar, whether it's 50% or 51. So this is not like a unicorn. This isn't something that hasn't been done. We just hadn't done it yet here.
So putting that number at 51% right there makes it pretty cut and dry.
It does.
What has been the reaction thus far?
I mean, I think when you explain it, people, number one, many didn't realize maybe that was maybe feeding the issue of a culture of lawsuits. And I'm not saying every lawsuit, but if you're going to get a payout, even if you cause the accident,
right,
that does create this idea that, well, I'll get something, right? I'll be able to sue for something. And so I think now, this goes into effect in January. We're going to see we'll see how this trickles down. But, there's some pushback. People are like, well, what? Is it fair? Is it this? I said, look, if you cause an accident, if you were the person that causes an accident, why would we not get in line with other states? And look, 17 of the 25 states that have some of the lowest insurance rates, they have a form of this fault system, whether it's 50 or 51%. So that says a lot about, the legal climate impacts this insurance problem. I'm not saying it's the only issue, but more payouts, right? If we're constantly paying more money out, it's going to trickle down and impact the individual.
This has been a problem thus far, is what you said right there. I'm not saying this is the only issue. For far too long, we've been, well, this isn't going to solve it all. And as long as it didn't solve it all, we didn't do jack diddly. Like, it's time to start. And I had a football coach in high school who used to say you can't eat an elephant in one bite.
Right.
It's time to start taking bites out of the elephant. And I think that's what y'all did this session, and yours was a pretty big bite.
Absolutely. That is what, look, and I've been seeing some things, whether it's on social media, when I talk about it, people are like, well, my rates are still high, my rates. And the truth is, I want my rates to go down. It takes time for this begin to go into effect. And like you said, we have to do the work. And I think in these committees, it wasn't just civil law that met. It was insurance. It was on both sides of the house. When people are coming to the table saying, look, here's what other states are doing. These states have done this. These states have adjusted their laws. And when we hear that people are commercial, especially our commercial companies, when they're having to go to Mississippi, park trucks there, or go to Texas, it's a problem if we're looking at the states. What are they doing, and what is their legal climate like? Why would we not make it better here? And not just automobile, just the fault system in general. Why would we not want to make a better climate for business? And it actually tells businesses out of state, when they're looking at where they're coming, if we have it more fair and balanced, they're more likely to say, let's go to Louisiana.
We've got State Representative Emily Chenevert in with us. And, yeah, this has been one where it's been a very obvious Texas or Mississippi move before this. Now, this was one piece of the puzzle. There were other pieces of the puzzle. What do you put alongside your bill that would help move that needle down?
Yeah, so we passed probably about 16 bills. I believe it was out of the House, got to the Senate. Like any session, not just this one, in any topic, you may not all get everything that you pass. Right. It's fair. I get it. Yep. For me, I want to see as much as we can and get everything done. I would love to see everything. But there's the debates. There's the inner turmoil of figuring out what to do. I think another one that was impactful is medical transparency. When we're looking at billing and bills like paid versus billed, we all know that even if you're not in an accident, if something is being billed, there's a difference most likely than what was paid out. And so we've had it where you couldn't really even reveal in the court and the jury like what was actually paid. It was just what's billed. So there's still some tweaking, I think, down the road maybe with this bill, but it was incredible because it's, again, we're starting to say, no, we're gonna start fixing these things in the legal climate. We're gonna start tweaking this because we can't just sit back and do it. We have to do something. We can't just sit back and say, well, it's not gonna do anything. No, we're gonna do it. We're gonna keep working.
Okay, so that brings me around to what is the next priority? Because there were a handful of bills that didn't make it out this time around that I think need to come back to the forefront next time. Representative Egan's bill about nuclear verdicts was one of them. Where's your priority heading into the next session when it comes to taking another bite out of the insurance elephant?
Great question. And for me, look, we're about 4 weeks out. And so a little bit of like, you try not to think about too much,
I'm giving you no time. I'm giving you no time to recoup here.
But look, I think like everything else, I am going to be constantly listening to my constituents, listening to businesses, listening to people that say we have to keep tweaking, or whether it's within this area of insurance, whether it's in another area of our state that we're trying to make better for businesses and for people to come here. At the end of the day, we want to keep our students here. We want to keep people in Louisiana. We want to build business. We want to stop people from leaving Louisiana. I mean, there are some great things done within workforce. There's some great things done within LED. I think there is an excitement and an idea of innovation of what we can do. And so look, I'm always looking in the trenches, like, what are some of the hard things to do? But look, going back to that bill you said about Egan, what's interesting is I want to pinpoint, when we start to tweak these things, it does make a difference. And like of those 17 of those 25 states, some of the states that aren't that are in that list, they have a cap a little bit, right? And so that was a big discussion. It's like, oh, no, let's not talk about that. But, Mississippi does. And so those are the things that so we're not done. I don't know where that goes. You have to have buy-in from it's not just one vote. And I want to encourage people that are listening is that let your legislators know, let your senators know, hey, this is what matters to me. If you can get 3 things done, right? Or 2 things done, because when you carry so many bills and do so many things, your time is spent debating, your time is spent gathering information. So for those listening, let us know this is what we care about. Let from the top down, from governor down, this is what matters to me in the state, and we can get it done.
We got about 3 minutes left with State Representative Emily Chenevert. Now, let me ask you the hard question, because things open up next session. This was a fiscal session where you were allowed 5 non-fiscal bills, but there is somewhat of an ability to keep your eye on the ball. A regular session that's just wide open. And I know we're only 4 weeks removed from the last one, but it's time to start the focus now. How do you keep your eye on the ball when you've got that big of a playing field next year?
Look, as going into my 3rd year of my first term, I jumped right in, even year 1, carrying some hard bills.
Yeah.
Did some third-party litigation. I've always kind of focused on some of these areas. I think coming back in, so it'll be my 2nd, regular session that's not just dealing with the fiscal matters. I think, and as an individual legislator, you can carry as many. It's the list. I think, though, you've got to really focus on the time and like what you can get across the finish line. As someone who is new coming in, I like to just say, I'm going to tackle it all,
Right.
And then you get in, you're like, okay, wait a minute. Let me hone in. Where are some areas that I really need to focus on? What are my strengths? Looking at your committees. Look, you carry bills a lot of times that you're on the committee. I'm in health and welfare, civil law, judiciary. So a lot of the litigation stuff that I carry comes through my own committee. So that makes sense. I'm in that discussion a lot. So you're naturally going to, to some degree, unless it's your own area of influence. So I'm looking at that. I'm always looking at how do we make our legal climate better. I've done that since day one, since I've gotten in office. I'm going to look at what's going to be good for business, lower taxes. I'm going to look at how are we going to make it where people can look. And I want to just kudos to my colleagues that help with the workforce piece of like trying to one door that's trying to get people that are dealing with social services into the workforce piece to kind of streamlining some of that. I think it's a huge generational change. And I think that's one area. Stephanie Baralt carried that bill, and also Representative of Carver. I think we're going to see some of that. That's going to be a huge thing, I think, in the future, too.
Is Susie Showen paying y'all to slip one door into every conversation?
No, but it's such a huge thing.
I know. It's getting every conversation.
Well, and I think because, I tell people, because we did the fiscal session, and it was like an insurance session the first few weeks, that bill, I feel like we talked a lot about it, but not as much as and I didn't carry it. But I just wanted to shout out, because I think generationally, we've got to get people to work and independent and feel like they have purpose and they're driven.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a huge win for the state. So that's why I like to talk about it.
But it's sneaking into every conversation, and I love it because it's a good thing that a little bit under the radar, but got done. Well, not really under the radar because everybody mentions it, but it got done, and it will show net results for us. In the meanwhile, she is State Representative Emily Chenevert. Thank you so much for a couple minutes.
Thank you.
818 Talk 107.3 FM. Quick break coming back. Let's talk about the book, How Trump Retook the White House and Democrats Lost America, next. That was an unbelievable 13 minutes. No, that was awesome. And I'm hoping I don't jack up Moon's clock with, I hope that fits. That's where I'm at. I hope that fits.
Can you ever come back and forth and like cut and then come back on his show? Time-wise?
If I have to.
I mean, I listen. I just don't pay attention. I know these segments.
Yeah.
I feel like I know these very well.
Well, so this is the one where I have room with my clock. It's in between 8:05. This break right here I can push, especially today because I didn't have this guy till 8:20.
Yes.
So I knew like I would have enough room for you to have some room to run,
Right.
which is what you needed because that was fantastic.
No, good deal. I'll always make time. You know that.
I know. Thank you so much. And the reason I haven't called you until now is because you and Dixon filled in right
Oh,
after
I
the
know.
segment was over. So I'm looking to cover as many
Yes.
as possible. But since I was on with Moon, I'm like, well, let's get Emily back in here to share with the whole audience.
No. So he did on I think I told you like right after my bill, this bill signing and all that.
Oh, that's right. You did.
So I went on that, but it was one of the only times that he definitely knows me, and like he sees me, we'll talk, and I've told him I'll come on anytime. Like I don't shy away from any interview. Like I'm happy to come on, and I enjoy it. It's I think it is as a legislator somewhere and for me it's a strength, and I always want to be able to put that out there.
All right, yeah, not a problem at all. We'll actually be having
Barbara, maybe,
in about another minute or so.
talked about doing like a town hall too with like people. We just haven't.
All right, that'll work.
I'm speaking of 2 events, LMTA, ABC.
Thank you.
I was talking with somebody else yesterday who's speaking of ABC. That's next week, right?
Yes, because I'm gonna family vacation. I'm leaving tomorrow, Wednesday to Sunday, and I'll be at
Where y'all
the
going?
Grand. My family's in Birmingham, my sister, and so Smith Lake, which is a gorgeous lake in Alabama. I've even been there; it's phenomenal. We friends of ours have just built a gorgeous lake house, and so we've known them for 20 years, and they let us use it. So we're going the second time, and then on the way back to Louisiana, we're just gonna pull into the Grand in Alabama and stop there until Thursday. So we have a good little, nice little getaway. I'm trying to think who else. No.
Representative Egan's bill, to me.
I think I'm gonna go haywire in a bunch of
Not the medical expenses, not the expenses for the wrecked car, not the out of work expenses.
just
all the other shit, and we can't put a $5 million cap on all the other shit.
or at least 10.
Ah!
We're seeing just 10.
Unreal.
Just something. All right, guys. Have a good morning.
You too. Thank you. Do I have an out time for Tyler?
Bottom of the hour.
Okay. 821 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Wasting no time to get back into it here. The co-author of the book 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and the Democrats Lost America, is Tyler Pager. He's New York Times White House correspondent. He's on with us now. Tyler, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
No, glad to have you on. Glad to be talking about this book because I think there's a lot to unpack here. I want to start with why. Why write the book? Because I think within that we're going to find out so much more.
Yeah, I mean, we had set out to write this book more than 2 years ago. At the time, it was shaping up to be a rematch between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And I was at the Washington Post with my colleagues. I was covering Joe Biden's White House and campaign. They were covering Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And we felt uniquely positioned to tell the definitive and comprehensive story of a hugely consequential presidential election. Obviously, it turned out to be way wilder and unexpected than we imagined, but we wanted to give people the behind-the-scenes definitive look at how we got to wherever we were going. Obviously, now we know the ending, but I think there are so many lessons and revelations about not just American politics and presidents in this book, but about America and its place in the world. And I think even though everyone knows how the story ends, all readers will learn so much about these candidates, their policies, and the future of our country by reading this book.
So there were so many things to unpack within it, not the least of which is I mean, basically how Donald Trump was covered from a national media perspective and some blowback there. There was Joe Biden's candidacy and then handing off to Kamala Harris. What were some of your bigger takeaways as to the how Trump retook the White House?
Yeah, I think one of the really, critical characters in that story and that has important resonance for today is Susie Wiles, the current White House chief of staff, who was one of the people who ran Donald Trump's campaign, and the way in which she built a new operation around Donald Trump that was much more strategic and disciplined than we had seen in 2016 and 2020, and sort of the way she rehabilitated Donald Trump's image. I think one of the really interesting things to remember that people likely forget at this point is when Donald Trump announced he was running for president in for the 2024 election, he couldn't even get any U.S. senators to attend. There were very few members of Congress. The next day, the New York Post wrote the story was Florida man makes an announcement. Donald Trump was supposed to have an interview with Sean Hannity that was canceled. He was not the star of the show at this point. And I think that's a really important moment to recall, given where he is now and the complete and utter control he has over the Republican Party. And so that journey, I think, is really quite stunning, and we recount in great detail.
How much did Donald Trump win and how much did Joe Biden / Kamala Harris lose?
I think it's both of those things, right? I don't think it's just, Donald Trump ran a really great, a really strategic campaign, and that was enough. I think both sides did things, right? I think one of the, important lessons I think that Democrats have told me they've learned from this process is that they largely seem to ignore what their voters were telling them. If you look at polling before Joe Biden announced he's running for president, the majority of Democrats did not want him to run for re-election, and voters and Joe Biden and his aides just sort of said, we don't care. He's the best person to win. And so it's that original thing of deciding to run for re-election, but it's also on many of the issues, right? Two of the issues that were most impactful for Donald Trump were the economy and immigration. And we kept seeing, polls that Americans felt the economy was not going well. They were concerned about inflation, but this was not something that Joe Biden's campaign was addressing in a way that their pollsters or other people were telling them. They wanted them to take a more empathetic tone. They wanted them to acknowledge that that Americans were struggling with rising prices, particularly as it related to groceries and gas and things like that. And so I think all of these, there's a lot on both sides of how Donald Trump ran a better campaign and how Democrats did not listen to their voters and also failed to address some of the issues that were most important to voters.
We are talking with Tyler Pager, New York Times White House correspondent, co-author of 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and Democrats Lost America. Tyler, this book does include exclusive interviews with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I want to bring it back around to when Donald Trump was thinking about running for re-election. Talk to me a little bit about the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago and how that shaped things and kind of firmed out his resolve.
Absolutely. I think this is one of the really, again, interesting revelations. I think now it's hard to imagine given he's in the Oval Office. But there was a period of time where Donald Trump was not at all sure that he was going to run for another term. We have Lindsey Graham quoted in the book. We have Republican allies and donors talking about that period where Trump is not dead set on running again. I think the FBI search and the ensuing criminal indictments in Georgia and Washington, D.C. and New York really set him on this path where he views winning the presidency his best path to freedom, to ensuring, as he says in an interview with my co-author, Josh Dawsey, I would have had a very unpleasant life had I not won re-election. And so I think those the experiences he's having, the criminal charges he's facing, really set him on this path and also help frame his message to voters, that it's not just about himself, but he ties his fate as a criminal defendant to the fate of his supporters, saying, they're not just coming for me, they're coming for all of you. And that forms the basis of a lot of his campaign.
Does the assassination attempt play into this?
Absolutely. I mean, in the interview he did for the book, he said, he poses the question, do you think I would have won if not for the assassination attempt. He says, I think so, but maybe not by that much. I think it also then broadly tied into this idea the idea his supporters had that he was, saved by God, and this sort of religious experience that many of his supporters felt in the aftermath of that assassination attempt.
He was humble for about 72 hours, and I think that might have been a record. We've got just a minute. We got just a minute or two left with Tyler Pager, New York Times White House correspondent and author of 2024: How Trump Retook the White House and Democrats Lost America. I want to pivot over to the Kamala Harris side of this, because the take has been mixed on whether or not Democrats clocked out because they didn't have a choice in who their candidate was.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, there were many Democrats, Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, that did not want a coronation of Kamala Harris. They wanted some sort of primary process. There was not a lot of agreement on how that would work, given the short time period, just over 100 days. But we saw the Democratic Party base coalesce behind Kamala Harris, at least at the beginning. I think the challenge for her campaign was expanding that. They went the path of trying to reach disaffected Republicans, independents. That was a big focus of theirs, people that were repelled by Trump. But one of the problems for the Democrats, and one of the things that Trump did quite successfully, was make inroads with voters that Democrats traditionally expected to support them in large numbers: Latinos, black men, younger men. Trump was quite successful in reaching those voting blocks.
I could keep going forever and ever. This is such a fascinating read and so much to unpack from it, but we are straight up out of time. Tyler Pager, New York Times White House correspondent, and the author of 2024: How Trump Retook the White House and Democrats Lost America. Tyler, thank you so much for a couple minutes this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Always, absolutely. It's so much going on within that book. I need a quick moment to remind you about the folks over at Breck. Breck.org is their home base online. Breck.org is their home base online. Where's their home base in real life? Well, it's everywhere throughout the parish. They're all over the place. I tell you what, I didn't look at the clock. I'll tell you about Breck in a minute.
So I was thinking, what?
Because it's behind the damn microphone. That's on me. Emily is going to be featured. Headline: the biggest home run of the legislative session.
Do you want to test?
Yeah, let's test. Did you call them?
No, I wanted to double check with you first before I did, just to be sure. We got like a few minutes.
All right, I have a minute to run across the hall and edit some audio. Okay. Congressman in on yet? Okay. I'm going to take a quick second to run across the hall and pull up the audio, the full audio that I need so I can start chopping it up. What room am I in? 838. Talk 1073 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Sorry, y'all, out of breath. A little behind the scenes programming note. Moon Griffon's on vacation this week. Yours truly is filling in for him. So it's a 5-hour Haldane Marathon this morning. And I was running up and down, getting some prep done for the next 2 hours. So let's refocus back on this show and bring it around to DC Current, presented by the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Of course, LABI is your state's Chamber of Commerce. They bring you conversations every week with, like right now, Congressman Troy Carter from Louisiana's 2nd Congressional District. Back on with us. Congressman Carter, how are you, sir?
I can hear only your traffic.
Okay, we need to, whatever the phone is in, it's going to be hearing whatever's coming back from what we set up during the break. So put everything back the way it was. All right. We're good now? Congressman, you got me?
I got you now. Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry, we were setting up the board for, I'm going to be filling in for Moon Griffon statewide, so trying to make this studio redirect over to Lafayette where his home base is. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your patience on that. All right.
Statewide this week, nationwide next.
Oh,
man,
my
we're
goodness,
moving.
no.
I love it, brother. I'm reading your future, and it's very bright.
It's if only there were enough hours in the day. I got to start off with rewinding the clock just a little bit. How'd the town hall go?
The town hall was phenomenal. We had, of course, the steering policy. We did a town hall meeting at Xavier University last week with leader Hakeem Jeffries, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Robin Kelly, and Annette Barragan. And we had a standing room only, nearly 500 people. And I'm proud to report Republicans, Democrat, Independent, people coming out seeking knowledge on what this bill or now what this law means. And you may say, well, the bill's passed now. Why are you still having town halls? Because people need to understand how this will impact them. And equally as important, what you have to do to protect yourself from being dropped on the road, off of the rolls, meaning those people who are eligible that can work, that we make sure that they are in fact working, rather it's volunteering in churches and schools and other organizations, that they are now complying with the new regulations as they are been signed into law, but also to make sure people are aware of all of the things that are in this bill that we believe are really ugly, to make sure as we continue to go through this process, we still have an appropriations process. We still have many other steps to take as it relates to the implementation of the bill, of the law, and keeping people informed. Many people still don't have a full grasp on what this law does, and part of our overwhelmingly successful town hall meeting, again, nearly 500 people asking questions, getting information, hearing stories of real life people who will be impacted by the law, telling their stories, was very impactful. We had massive media coverage. All of the news stations and newspapers covered it. And again, it was a great effort in a bipartisan way to express to the people of Louisiana what this law will do.
Congressman Troy Carter is our guest. This is DC Current, presented by LABI. Congressman Carter, one of the things that I've been it keeps coming up as a reminder within is there's ramp up. There's time for people to adjust along the way here. Beautiful, ugly, no matter what your takeaway is, there's time for people to make sure they have their house in order. How much of your town hall was focused on that end of it?
A lot of it was, and that was the point I was making, is that there's ramp up, very craftily done. I think the leaders of this big ugly bill had a plan, and the plan that many of these things don't take into effect until after the midterms. So people won't see a lot of this pain until the midterms are well underway. We want to remind people that this ramp-up period was created not necessarily for their comfort, but as a way to disguise the ugliness of this and the pain that people will feel, and that they won't feel it before their next visit to the ballot box. We want to reverse that and take advantage of that time to prepare people to make sure that they're well aware, well educated in all the steps that are necessary for those who can be protected. Some, unfortunately, there's nothing we'll be able to do. They're going to come off the rolls. Some of it's not going to be something that we can inform people and make it get better, because we know that when you start seeing some 17 million people that are estimated by the Congressional Budget Office, a nonpartisan, independent group, that people are going to lose their coverages, and what will end up happening is rural hospitals will close. The pain and suffering that comes from not having health care will undoubtedly put additional strain on our emergency rooms, because people won't be able to go to get medical attention for the basic things. They'll only be able to seek medical attention in an emergency room where they can't be turned away. That's a dangerous proposition. So a part of our discussion, and it really helped having the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, here demonstrating the significance and the importance of Louisiana, to not only talk about next steps, but to hear questions, answer questions, and talk about how do we take advantage of this period to batten down the hatches, if you will, and be prepared for the storm of what these cuts would mean. And we're going to be very aggressive going throughout the state and going throughout the country, having more of these where we are going to educate people on what the law does and what you can do to protect yourself.
I find it to be such an interesting perspective to talk about how the one side could say it is when pushed back beyond 2026 or 2028, you don't. I think the words you use were you don't reveal the ugliness. But on the other side, I don't think that you can run on the fruits of your labor until you see the effects of the change. So to me, this is a matter of, it's gonna be a headline battle next year before above anything else.
Well, unfortunately, far too much of this it becomes political.
Yeah.
And, you know, how it's played out, how it's spun is very unfortunate. What the people that ultimately hurt are the constituents back home that we were sworn to protect and defend. And unfortunately, they get caught up in the middle of headlines and spin wizards on either side of the equation, when at the end of the day, our most important task is to take care of the American people, keep them healthy, safe, prosperous. And, you know, that I'd like to see all parties concentrate more on that and less on political fist-pounding or party fist-pounding.
Congressman Troy Carter is our guest. This is DC Current, presented by the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. If we could, Congressman, I want to pivot over to your Open RAN Outreach Act. Tell me all about this.
Yeah, very happy. Again, a bipartisan bill that I'm proud to have sponsored with Representative Richard Hudson of North Carolina. It provides greater federal support for small telecommunication companies in rural and disadvantaged communities. This allows our companies to remove potentially insecure Chinese network hardware. And what that does by going to Open RAN, it gives law enforcement, gives our small business owners, it gives our telecommunication operators an opportunity to use the benefits of modern technology, information to provide outreach and technical assistance with small communication network providers, the benefits of transitioning from Open Radio Access Network, which is referred to as Open RAN. This gives us an opportunity to strengthen our communication systems, to lean more inward with our own technology, and to secure us, if you will, from the intrusion of Chinese listening and getting involved in our business, getting involved in the national security. We know that the older equipment that is Chinese made has its issues. And with the current state of affairs, we have to make sure that we're protecting Louisianians, especially our small telecommunication providers in rural areas like Louisiana. This bill opens the door for a more secure, diverse, and competitive wireless network. This technology not only enhances national security, but it improves us and the risk of danger from foreign intrusion. It's one of those measures that is state of the art. Glad that members from Louisiana and North Carolina are leading the effort to make this a reality. This bill ensures that rural communities no longer left behind in the race of cutting edge technology. It really does, in fact, boost American manufacturing and gives us an opportunity to foster the innovation of 5G technology. It's an important bill. It passed on the House floor yesterday, on its way to the Senate, and hopefully on its way to President Trump's desk to be signed into law. How
does this work in concert or in contrast to what's been worked on with trying to get 5G throughout? We've been trying to get it throughout the state of Louisiana. So that what Vineeth Iyengar's been working on. How is this complementary of that, or is this separate from it?
It's complementary. What it does is it builds into and boosts above the technology. So Open RAN is a technology that's going to strengthen and give us the opportunity to expedite the 5G throughout Louisiana. The strength of it is it really does pick up in those areas, in rural areas where we have had the challenge to be able to move it much faster and expedite having it a reality. And the security feature cannot be emphasized enough. Us being able to block out intrusion and using technology that's coming from someone who is a not friendly to America. We continue to use technology that's made by people that have demonstrated that they're not our allies, and we've got to be smarter than that. Technology in 2025 is everything, right? And think about it, if our communication devices are being made by quote unquote enemy or someone that's not fond of America, then we're crazy to continue to use that type of technology. Leaning in with Open RAN gives us the opportunity to build our own systems, expedite our own systems, make them secure, safe, protect our local small companies while also protecting our national security.
See, I like that you call it Open RAN because some people use just the acronym ORAN. And every time I hear ORAN, I think of the 80s one-hit wonder Orange Juice Jones, and I want to sing Walking in the Rain.
That's pretty good, man. You pull it all together, brother.
Always appreciate the time.
Technology.
That song's going to be stuck in your head the rest of the day.
That's
Walking
right.
in the Rain. All right, Congressman Carter, we always appreciate the time, sir.
Bless you, my friend. Have a fantastic week.
You too. Here is Your Money Now. I saw you come back in with it. Walking in the rain. I got 2 minutes, 3 minutes, what? Okay. Okay. Whatever it was that we did with Congressman Carter, I'm going to need to do with, because I'm going to have a couple of guests on the hotline here. So, yeah, we need to make sure that's on point. Yeah. Walking in the rain, we were holding hands, and I'll never be the same. It's a banger, man. Telling you.
I hear that. I hear that.
Orange Juice Jones.
Man.
It's like 82, 83, somewhere up in there.
Wow.
Creepy video. If you ever saw when Donald Glover hosted Saturday Night Live, he did a spoof of this song.
Oh,
And you got to
okay.
see the two side by side for it to be utterly hilarious, but it is utterly hilarious. Oh, man. Good stuff. You know what? I hope everybody who just heard that, I hope to God that song is stuck in your head the rest of the day. Because that's just a feel good right there. That is a snap your fingers, put a little pep in your step type of jam. Even though it's creepy as all get out. We're not done yet, y'all. We got to hit the outside in a minute, but I do need a second to remind you about the folks over at NeuroJust. Check them out online at neurojust.com, NEUROJUST, neurojust.com. What do? They treat anxiety and depression. How do they do it? Well, they do it a little bit differently than most therapists would. Nothing wrong with sit-down therapy, talking it out with somebody, but how many times has that turned into a quick prescription to help you with your depression? And how many times those prescriptions get addictive or lose the effects that you want or have other side effects? This is treatment for anxiety and depression without the side effects. It's a treatment called transcranial magnetic stimulation. It is FDA approved. It is non-invasive. It is painless. You sit down. You have a couple dozen sessions overall. But basically what it does is when your mind is constantly in fight or flight mode, it lowers the overall temperature there. It lowers the level of stress and anxiety and all the other things that lead to the depression. Patients see a response rates of 70 to 80%, remission rates of 60 to 70%. Check them out online at neurojust.com, NEUROJUST, neurojust.com. All right, let's hit the outside in. So Camp Beauregard is going to be back to Camp Beauregard. Only thing is it's going to be a different Beauregard this time around. New Orleans veteran Captain Jacques Toutant Beauregard. Previously, the Camp Beauregard was named after Confederate General Pierre Gustave Toutant Beauregard. The base's name was changed back in 2022. Lieutenant Colonel Noel Collins says the restoration honors Louisiana history.
This is an American hero and patriot and someone that embodies what we consider to be Louisiana National Guard values, especially in terms of call to both federal and state service.
Beauregard fought with the 3rd Regiment in Louisiana's militia and the first land engagement in the Battle of New Orleans against General Edward Pakenham and the British Army. Collins says it was important to find someone who embodies the Louisiana National Guard.
Jacques Toutant Beauregard was called to federal service in the militia, and that's the precursor to the Louisiana National Guard.
If you could just rename Beauregard after a different Beauregard, why couldn't Lee Circle be renamed Harry Lee Circle? Moon's next. Well, I'm next. All right, guys, I got to bounce because I got to do Moon Show and I'm still working. I don't think we're going to have it on Facebook Live because I got a lot going on behind the scenes. So we will see y'all tomorrow. No.